Back in February 2007, I had a weird experience in Miami County, Indiana, near US 31 and US 24. I was working overnight shifts at a warehouse and got off work a little early. I was following a co-worker down the road when he suddenly swerved. As I got closer, I saw a tall black shape walking in the middle of the road. I had to swerve too, and then I stopped as this thing walked right next to my driver's window. It didn't seem to have a head or arms. It looked like a person wrapped in a black blanket, moving in a really strange, flapping way, like those wacky inflatable tube men you see at car dealerships. When it passed my car, it was taller than my SUV, which was about 5'7". This thing was at least 7 feet tall, even though it was leaning forward. It had thick legs and a thick torso, all solid black or dark brown, with no details like hair or clothes. I drove off and saw my co-worker had pulled into a gravel lot. We both were freaked out, talking about how it had no head. We decided to go back and check it out. When we got back to the same spot, there was a huge black dog lying in the road. It looked like a big German shepherd, with thick fur like a chow. I got out to check it, and the dog raised its head and growled. Its eyes reflected the headlights, making them look yellow. It then stood up on its back legs like a person, about as tall as me. I'm 6'3". It stood there for a moment, then dropped down and ran into the trees on its back legs, without using its front legs. My co-worker and I were in shock. We looked around and saw a little field mouse standing on its hind legs, cleaning itself. It was all wet, even though it hadn't been raining. It didn't move when I nudged it with my shoe. We left, and when I got home, I looked up weird walking dogs. Someone online suggested I might have seen a dog man, something I'd never heard of before. When I tried to talk about it at work, my co-worker got mad and told me to shut up, threatening to deny it ever happened. For years I struggled to make sense of it. I figured the dog might have been hurt and flopping around, but that didn't explain the first, much bigger figure I saw. I'm usually a skeptic, but this experience has haunted me. It didn't make sense with any logical explanation I could think of.
Back in 2006, I was a teenager growing up in Indiana. My family has a long history of hunting, and we own several acres of land for hunting and camping. My dad wanted to take me on a hunting trip with some friends around my 15th birthday in November. I was excited and invited my two closest friends, Ron and Danny. My dad decided we should hunt at night. I was nervous but didn't want to seem scared in front of my friends, so I agreed. We left at around 3 a.m. and drove 30 minutes to the woods. I fell asleep in the car and woke up to my dad unloading the car. "Good morning, Sleeping Beauty. We were about to leave you here. Get your rifle," my dad joked. We made our way into the moonlit forest. The air was filled with a horrible smell of decay and human waste. My dad said it was probably a dead animal. We should have turned back then. We reached the hunting stands, and the smell faded a bit. I climbed up one stand with Danny, while my dad and Ron took the other. The stands were in a large clearing surrounded by woods, and the moonlight provided some visibility. "Are you nervous?" Danny asked. "No, I've done this before," I lied. "I'm scared. What if I shoot someone?" "You won't. Just stay calm." We had food and a deck of cards. We turned on a flashlight and hung it from the roof of the stand to play cards. About an hour passed, and we heard rustling in the brush across the clearing. We stopped our game and looked. There, we saw a humanoid creature with 4 emaciated arms and pale, rotting skin. It moved on 2 legs and had long claws. It must have been at least 6 feet tall, with sunken eyes that gleamed in the moonlight. The same horrible smell came back, stronger than before. The creature's presence filled me with fear. It walked towards the stands, and I was paralyzed. Then, it suddenly disappeared. But more of them came out of the woods, at least 20 of them. They vanished as quickly as they appeared. We climbed down and ran back to the truck. As we ran, the smell came back. I reached the truck first and got in. Hundreds of these creatures were chasing us. Danny tripped and was swallowed by the horde. I started the truck and drove off as fast as I could. By the time I got home, the sun was rising. The warmth made me feel safe. But when I stepped inside, I woke up in my bed, in broad daylight. I was confused. Was it all a dream? No, it felt too real. I went to my father's room and found my dad and friends torn to shreds. Blood was everywhere, and on the wall, written in blood, were the words, "We are real." Then I heard scratching at the front door. I ran to the cellar, locked the steel door, and barricaded it. I climbed up the ladder to the outside world and ran to my aunt and uncle's house a block away. Their cars were there, but no one answered the door. I searched the house and found them all mutilated, like my dad and friends. I grabbed the car keys and drove out of town, seeing bodies and blood everywhere. I eventually reached my grandparents' place and told them it was just a murder. I transferred schools and tried to move on, but I kept having nightmares and hallucinations. I was later diagnosed with PTSD and schizophrenia. College and my future wife helped me cope, and we moved to a small town in central Indiana. I just hope to never experience it again.
I work as security at GM's Components Holdings here in Kokomo, Indiana. 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. is the shift I mainly work, as I sometimes work days or afternoons. Myself and others have all talked about creepy things that have happened while working the graveyard shift. Back in the day, 12,000 people worked at this plant. Now only 100 remain. Each night there's one maintenance guy who's in charge of fixing any leaks or alarms that may occur. But other than that, it's just two of us security officers. One officer is assigned to the front gate, and the other does rounds inside the building. Both officers will switch off every 2 hours throughout the night, and each is assigned 2 plants to make rounds in while inside. The majority of the building is decommissioned and decrepit. Plant 6-7 is still in use, but only during the day, which leaves plants 8, 9, 10, ITC, Fab 3, and ERC all basically abandoned. At night, especially in the colder months, pipes will constantly bang due to the expanding and contracting due to temperature, which is a little unsettling. It's a relatively creepy place in the daytime and absolutely horrifying at night. During my first week, I was assigned Fab 3 and Plant 8 for my first rounds. The Fab is on the complete opposite side of building than the security office. And mind you, you're basically by yourself in a 2.6 million SQ foot building. Anyway, my duty is to take pictures of these reflective stickers on important things such as risers for the fire suppression system, perimeter doors, and alarms, just to verify I've checked these locations. The first floor of the Fab is pretty easy, as it's just one large rectangle, and it's honestly not terrible to walk through. The basement, however, is creepy as creepy can get. I was doing my round in the basement and everything was fine, but I just had a feeling of dread the whole time I was walking down there. As I was nearing the top of the stairs out of the basement, I heard someone sprinting up the stairs behind me, which freaked the absolute crap out of me. The basement stairs have 3 flights of stairs, so it's quite a ways down or up. After talking to the guys who relieved me at 8 a.m., one guy talked about his experience during his day shift shortly after he first started working there. He told me that he was doing a round on the Fab's main floor when he came across a construction worker sitting on a bench in the middle of the Fab. The worker was staring at his phone, which didn't really seem odd at the time. However, as the officer walked by him, he noticed the worker's phone wasn't even turned on. The officer pretty much shrugged it off and headed down to the basement. As he was coming back up the stairs, he heard someone sprinting up the stairs behind him. The really weird part about that is there was nobody else remotely close to there. The maintenance guy was on the opposite side of the building the whole time. Fast forward to just about a month ago, my supervisor was talking to me, and she talked about a guy who used to work in the Fab as a night shift maintenance worker when it was still in production, and he actually wrote a book about his experiences while working in the basement. He states that himself and 2 other workers all experienced a feeling of dread, the feeling of constantly being watched, and they also saw who appeared to be a construction worker in the basement. The author one evening was fixing a valve close the floor, and as he looked up, He could see what appeared to be work boots and jeans before whoever it was disappeared. A man hung himself in Plant 10, and one officer talked about large doors being slammed behind him while patrolling through that specific plant. Just thinking about all of it makes the hair on my neck stand straight up.
I hope you found these stories as chilling and unsettling as I did. It's a stark reminder that sometimes reality can be stranger and more frightening than fiction. If you enjoyed these tales of suspense, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more spine-chilling content. This is your host, Nicholas Black. Until next time.